Now, this hour's first topic is the main effect of X2. Translation. 오늘 세 번째 강의 시작하고요. 그 다음에 지금 시간에 첫 번째 토픽은 main effect, the main effect of X2 in Korean, X2의 주 효과. Okay. Now, if you look at this cell here, and here we are going to compare the levels of X2. Translation. X2의 순들을 비교하는 거예요. Okay, so let us compare the response mean when X2 is positive 1 and response mean when X2 is negative 1. So we are going to compare the mean at column 2 with mean at column 1. Okay, so this is the definition of main effect of X2. Main effect of X2 equals response mean when X2 is positive 1 minus response mean when X2 is negative 1. Now, response mean when X2 is positive 1 is column 2 mean. And response mean when X2 is negative 1 is column 1 mean. So the main effect of X2 is column 2 mean minus column 1 mean. And column 2 has two means that are y bar of negative equal to P and y bar of positive negative equal to R. And column 2 has two cell means that are y bar of negative positive equal to Q and y bar of positive equal to S. So column 1 mean is average of QS, average of QS. And column 2 mean is average of P and R. Right, average of P and R. Okay, column 2 mean is the average of Q and S, which is denoted by Q plus S divided by 2. And column 1 mean is the average of average of P and R, which is denoted by P plus R divided by 2. Also, I'm going to explain this notation. Okay, so the column 2 mean and column 1 mean can be denoted by y bar of dot negative. Negative means the level of X2, and dot means levels of X1 combined. Translation. 여기 마이너스 부분은 칼럼 1 민에서 요건 X2의 레벨이고, 여기 X1 자리에 다 찍힌 것은 X2에서 X1 자리에 다 찍힌 것은 X1. 그 두 가지 레벨이 결합됐다는 거예요. 두 가지 레벨 전체에 걸쳐서 이 평균을 낸다는 거예요. 전체에 걸쳐서 평균을 내니까 두 셀 민을 더해서 나눠주는 거죠. 그래서 Y X1에 대해서는 전체에 걸쳐서 평균을 낸다. 그 뜻으로 다 쓰는 거예요. X1 마이너스, X2 마이너스는 유지가 되는 거죠. 전체적으로. 그 다음에 여기서도 마찬가지로 I'm going to explain this notation. Y bar of that positive. The positive is the level of X2. And X1, the level of X1 is denoted by dot, which means the two cell means are combined. 여기 X2의 레벨이 포지티브로 찍힌 것은 X2 레벨은 포지티브로 고정되었다라는 거고, 이 낫을 지킨 것은 이제 x1 레벨 두 개 전체에 걸쳐서 이제 평균을 낸다는 뜻이에요. 이게 그래서 이게 q 플러스 s 나누기 2가 되는 거죠. Okay, so the main effect of x2 is average of qs minus average of p and r. So it is q plus s divided by 2 minus p plus r divided by 2, which can be expressed as 2 times negative p plus q minus r plus s divided by 4, which is the same as 2 times b2. This means b2 is this. Translation. 요거는 여기까지가 이제 매니픽의 정의인데, 근데 요거를 이제 플러스가 되면은 2 곱하기 이런 표현이 나와요. 근데 이런 표현이 바로 B2예요. 지난 시간에 여러분이 보신 것처럼 여기서 B2 equals negative P plus Q minus R plus S divided by 4. Okay, look at the signs before P, Q, R, S respectively. Negative, positive, negative, positive. Translation. PQR 앞에 PQRS 앞에 붙은 그 사인들, 부호들을 보세요. Negative, positive, negative, positive. Okay, here. Okay, negative, positive, negative, positive. So this is B2. So it is 2 times B2. I'm explaining the relationship between effect and the coefficient. Translation. 지금 제가 그 effect하고 coefficient 사이의 관계식을 말씀드리고 있는 거예요. So main factor of x2 is the same as 2 times b2, which is 2 times the coefficient of x2. Example. Sorry. Example. Suppose we have the following cell means. x1 negative 1, x2 x1 positive 1, x1 negative 1, x2 positive 1, 82, p, 70q, 6o, and 58s. Okay, so the main factor of x2 equals q plus s divided by 2 minus p plus r divided by 2, which equals 70 plus 58 divided by 2 minus 62 plus 6 divided by 2 equals, which equals 20. And 20 is 2 times 10, and 10 is B2, so it is 2 times B2. Now, let's verify if B2 is really 10. Translation, 이 B2가 진짜 10인지 확인합시다. Okay, here. Okay. Now here, in the previous material, B2 is 10, correct. Okay, so we see that main factor of x2 is 2 times b2. Now, next topic for this hour is the interaction effect of x1 and x2. Okay, now we have this table of cell means. Now, look at this. Effect of x1 times x2 equals, okay, interaction effect of x1 and x2 is the factor of x1 and x2 when levels of x1 and levels of x1 and x2 are negative 1 and positive 1 respectively. I mean, I mean, right. When the levels of x1 is positive 1 and negative 1, and the levels of x2 is positive 1, negative 1, the interaction effect of x1 and x2 is defined by the effect of x1 times x2. Translation. x1의 레벨이 마이너스 1 플러스 1이고 x2의 레벨이 마이너스 1 플러스 1일 때는 그 x1과 x2 사이에 그 인터랙션, x1과 x1의 인터랙션 상호작용 효과, interaction effect는 the effect of x1 times x2, x1 곱하기 x2의 effect 효과로 적용이 됩니다. Effect of x1 times x2 equals response mean when x1 times x2 is positive 1 minus response mean when x1 times x2 is negative 1. Okay, now look at this cell. In this cell, x1 times x2 is 1. Okay, so I'm going to use different colors to denote the value of x1 times x2. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look at the graph that will come later. Okay, here, now here, right, the red color denotes 1. Okay, so here, okay, the interaction effect of x1 and x2, the interaction effect of x1 and x2. Now here, I use the red color to denote the cell where x1 times x2 is positive 1. Translation. 나는 빨간 색깔을 씁니다. 그 x1 곱하기 x2가 플러스 1인 셀을 나타내기 위해서. Okay, here, look at this. In this cell, x1 is positive 1 and x2 is positive 1. So x1 times x2 is positive 1. So I use the red color to denote this cell. Okay, so here, 여기서 x1 곱하기 x2가 1이기 때문에 빨간 색깔을 썼어요. Now, in this cell, x1 is negative 1 and x2 is positive 1. So x1 times x2 is negative 1. I use the blue color to denote a cell where x1 times x2 is negative 1. Also here, x1 is 1 and x2 is negative 1. So x1 times x2 is negative 1. So I use the blue color to denote this cell. Translation. 여기서도 x1, x2 곱한 게 마이너스 1이니까 블루 컬러, 파란색을 써서 이 셀을 나타냅니다. Now, okay, effect of x1 times x2 is response mean when x1 times x2 is positive 1 minus response mean when x1 times x2 is negative 1. So it is the average of the diagonal cell means where the signs of x1, x2 are the same, minus average of diagonal cell means where the signs of x1, x2 are different. Translation. 여기 x1 곱하기 x2가 플러스 1이 되려면은 x1, x2의 그 부호가 같아야죠. 플러스든 마이너스든. 또 이거 보시면 알겠지만 이 빨간 색깔 셀들은 대각선 셀이에요. 대각선 셀. 대각선의 영어. What is 대각선의 in English? Diagonal. Diagonal cell means 이거는 대각선상에 위치한 셀 평균들이죠. PS. 그 다음에 반대로 이렇게 있는 거죠. 이렇게 파란색을 연결해서 생기는 그 선은 비대각선이라고 그래요. 그래서 파란 색깔의 셀들은 off diagonal cell이라고 하죠. 그래서 그 셀 미인들은 off diagonal cell means. 그래서 이렇게 response mean when x1 곱하기 x2가 translation. x는 x2가 플러스 1일 때 response mean은 그 부호가 같은 경우에 셀 미인들이죠. 다이애고널 셀 미인들의 평균인데 그 다이애고널 셀들에서는 부호들이 같죠. 그 다음에 그 파란 색깔 그거는 average of diagonal cell means 비대각선 셀들의 평균 average of diagonal cell means. 그런데 거기서 그 x1, x2 부호들이 다르죠. So this is the Korean translation. equal to x1의 부호와 x2의 부호가 같은 경우에 cell means diagonal cell means의 평균 마이너스 x1의 부호와 x2의 부호가 요거 sorry x1의 부호와 x2의 부호가 다른 경우의 cell means of diagonal cell means의 평균 which equals average of P and S. Okay, look at the red cell means minus average of Q and O, which are of diagonal cell means, equal to P plus S divided by 2. Okay, I'm going to use the red color here. Minus P plus R divided by 2, which is 2 times P minus Q minus R plus S divided by 4, which is 2 times P2. Why? Because P minus Q minus R plus S divided by 4 is P12. Look at this. Okay, here. P12 equals P minus Q minus R plus S divided by 2. And here, P minus Q minus R plus S is the same as B12. So again, the effect is 2 times coefficient. The effect of x1 times x2 is 2 times B12. Okay, example. Suppose we have the following cell means. Okay, 82P, 70Q, 6R, and 58S. Now, interaction effect of x1 times x2, which is the same as, in this case, effect of x1 times x2, equal to some comment in Korean. 우리말로 설명 좀 해줄게요. 여기 이렇게 interaction effect of x1, x2가 여기서는 x1 곱하기 x2의 효과랑 이제 같게 되어 있는데요. 근데 이게 어떨 때 이렇게 되냐면 이렇게 x1의 수준들이 마이너스 1 플러스 1이고 x2의 수준들이 마이너스 1 플러스 1일 때 이게 성립되는 거예요. 보통 이거를 만일 이게 다르게 두면 안 돼요. 뭐 예를 들어서 뭐 x1의 수준을 0, 1으로 놓는다든가 또 x2의 수준도 0, 1으로 놓는다든가 하면은 이런 등식이 성립이 안 해요. 그리고 이렇게 숫자 이렇게 코디드 팩터를 써가지고 원래 요인 수준을 간략하게 나타낼 때는 그 사용된 그 코디드 팩터의 레벨들의 평균이 제로가 되는 게 좋아요. 그러니까 마이너스 1 플러스 1 하게 되면 이 수준들의 평균이 제로가 되죠. 제로를 중심으로 딱 대칭을 이루는 게 좋죠. 평균이 제로가 되고. 네, 그래서 이렇게 x1, x2가 각각 그 수준이 마이너스 1 플러스 1으로 표기될 때 이런 관계가 성립된다는 걸 말씀드렸습니다. equals P plus effect of x1 times x2 equals P plus Q divided by 2. Okay. Okay, I'm going to use different colors. P plus Q divided by 2. Okay. And minus Q plus R divided by 2. Okay. So it is 52 plus 50. I'm sorry. So it is 82 plus 58 divided by 2 minus 70 plus 6 divided by 2 equals to 32, which is 2 times 16, which is 2 times B12. 16 is B12. Let me verify. 16이 B12이에요. 이 example에서 좀 확인합시다. Okay, here B12 is 16. Okay, we got it. 맞죠? 찾았죠? Okay, B12 is 16. So, 32 is B times 16, which is B times 2 times B12. 32 is 2 times B12. Again, we found that the factor of 2 times the coefficient. So, okay. So, this is summary. Effect is 2 times coefficient, or coefficient is effect divided by 2. Okay, here the B1 to the coefficient 16 is 32 divided by 2. Okay, 32 divided by 2. Coefficient is effect divided by 2, and effect is 2 times coefficient. This is a statement written in plain English. The effect is twice the coefficient. The coefficient is half the effect. Thus, coefficient of x1, which is p1, equals main factor of x1 divided by 2 equal to negative 44 divided by 2, negative 22. And coefficient of x2, which is b2, equals main factor of x2 divided by 2 equal to 20 divided by 2, 10. Coefficient of x1 times x2, which is b12, equals the factor of x1 times x2 divided by 2, which equals 32 divided by 2, which equals 16.